Welcome to our 2028 presidential election coverage. This evening, we have incumbent President Jon Ossoff in the fight for his political career against GOP nominee Ron DeSantis. Ossoff was elected back in the 2024 U.S. presidential election, and earlier this year, Ron DeSantis became the nominee after he swept the Republican primaries. Here is a full Democratic ticket. We have incumbent President Jon Ossoff and incumbent Vice President Kamala Harris. And for the GOP ticket, we have, of course, former Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and his running mate, California Congressman Mike Garcia. Here is Jon Ossoff's approval rating. He has 40% approval, 54% disapproval, meaning that a net 14% disapprove of him. He only has a 78% Democratic approval rating, 3% from Republicans, and 10% from independents, meaning Jon Ossoff is pretty unpopular. Meanwhile, Ron DeSantis is actually quite popular, especially in comparison to Jon Ossoff. He has a 52% approval rating, 46% disapproval, meaning a net +6 approval rating. He has an 8% approval rating from Democrats specifically, 96% from Republicans, very high, and 57% from independents, another high rating. And here is the electoral map as gathered from polling data averages. Much of the Rust Belt is considered toss-up. Meanwhile, a few Sunbelt states are also considered toss-ups, but actually Ron DeSantis has a considerable amount of strength in that region, as you can see with Texas, Florida being likely, and North Carolina being lean. But essentially what these numbers mean. So Ron DeSantis has 235 electoral votes, considered pretty likely to go for him this evening. Meanwhile, Jon Ossoff only has 211. In the nationwide polling data, Jon Ossoff has 47% compared to Ron DeSantis' 48.9% of the data. So far, that means that DeSantis is almost ahead by about 2%. In Arizona, DeSantis has a lead of about 2% in the polling data. And in Georgia, it is about 0.9% separating the two candidates. And of course, it's in polling data, not the actual election. In Michigan, Ossoff has a 0.1% lead. And in Minnesota, Ossoff has a 1.4% lead, 1.4% lead. In Nebraska's 2nd district, Ossoff has a 0.8% lead, and in New Hampshire, Ossoff has a 1% lead, one of his bigger ones this evening. And in Nevada, it is very close, 0.2% lead for DeSantis. And in Pennsylvania, Ron DeSantis is ahead by just under 1%. And in Wisconsin, Ron DeSantis is leading by a very large margin, about 1.3%. And here is the CNN electoral map, what they use their polling to predict. Essentially, Ron DeSantis wins in their scenario, 275 electoral votes to Jon Ossoff's 263. A little skew towards Ossoff in the more unbiased opinion, as he's pretty much down in many of the polls in the states that it projects him to win. For example, Ossoff wins Nevada by a lean margin when he is down there by a tilt margin compared to DeSantis. The Fox News electoral map has Ron DeSantis winning essentially the same victory as Donald Trump back in 2016, 306 to 232. Pretty much based on the polling data, but could be pretty accurate, but we will have to see this evening. And the MSNBC electoral map gives Jon Ossoff 292 electoral votes to Ron DeSantis' 246. Definitely a little ambitious for Jon Ossoff. And the Newsmax map has Ron DeSantis at 347 compared to Jon Ossoff's 191, widely agreed to be very inaccurate. And here is the current Senate map. So Mitch McConnell, if you do not know, retired back in 2026, so John Thune, senator from South Dakota, took over as Senate Majority Leader. John Thune is one of the more old guard Republicans, meaning that he has to win big this evening so that more populist Republicans will not endorse a challenge to him as the Senate Majority Leader for the GOP. But here is the current map, pretty much the same as the presidential map. As you can see, all the states colored in yellow are considered toss-up. John Thune's Republican Party is pretty much ahead with 47 seats considered pretty likely to go for them this evening, while Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are up 42. And here are the Alaska Senate polls. This is Al Gross and Lisa Murkowski look like they're pretty likely to be in the top two given a ranked choice voting, and Lisa Murkowski is ahead by about 5%. In Arizona, Mark Kelly doing very well against Kelly Ward, outperforming Jon Ossoff. In Florida, Debbie Mercastle-Powell is down by a pretty large margin compared to Marco Rubio. In Georgia, it is very close in a rematch of the 2022 Georgia Senate elections, Raphael Warnock, the incumbent, against Herschel Walker. And in Iowa, Abby Finkenauer is a few points down compared to Pat Grassley, now running to replace his grandfather who retired. In New Hampshire, it is another rematch of 2022. Maggie Hassan is leading Kelly Ayotte by about 0.6%. And in Nevada, Kathleen Cortez Masto leading Dean Heller by about 2.4%, another candidate outperforming Jon Ossoff. And in North Carolina, Sherry Beasley is down compared to Ted Budd. Budd, the incumbent senator, is ahead by about 1.4%. And in Ohio, it is a lead for incumbent Senator J.D. Vance against Nina Turner, a representative in Ohio. And in Pennsylvania, John Fetterman is leading Lou Barletta by about 0.5%. And in Wisconsin, Sarah Godlewski, the incumbent senator, is down 0.9% against incumbent Wisconsin Governor Sean Duffy. And here are the most important issues polled by Americans. About 50% say the economy, 20% say the current pandemic, 10% say racial justice, and 5% say immigration. And that same number, 5%, listed other issues as the most important to them. And the state of the nation, 40% say it is worse compared to 4 years ago, 30% say better, 20% say the same, and 10% are unsure. 40% means that Jon Ossoff is not very well approved of, something that we did already know, but it definitely will help Ron DeSantis. And the party affiliation shows that Republicans have gained about 1% in voter registration. Democrats have lost a few points, and the rest of that difference has gone to independents. And here we have our 7 p.m. poll closings. We finally will get some results out of this contentious presidential election. We can project that Indiana will give its electoral votes to Ron DeSantis. Easy win here. Same thing in Kentucky. Another 8 electoral votes will fall into the DeSantis column. Jon Ossoff will win the state of Vermont's 3 electoral votes. And in Georgia, too close to call, Jon Ossoff has an early lead. And in South Carolina, also too close to call, very close right now, but a very small amount of the vote in. And in Virginia, too early to call, Ron DeSantis has the early lead. And in Indiana, Todd Young will easily win the Senate seat here. In Kentucky, Rand Paul will easily win re-election. And in South Carolina, Nancy Mace will be going to the Senate for her first 6 years. In Vermont, Molly Gray will become the next senator from Vermont. And in Georgia, it is too close to call, Raphael Warnock surprisingly outperforming Jon Ossoff in the state. And Indiana, Curtis Hill will easily win re-election as governor. And we already predicted that. Phil Scott will also easily win re-election as governor of Vermont. And here is the current electoral map. 19 electoral votes for DeSantis compared to 3 for Ossoff. And in the Senate map, John Thune has 37 seats compared to Chuck Schumer's 33. And when I say Thune and Schumer, I really mean Republicans and Democrats. And here we have our 7:30 p.m. poll closings. And in West Virginia, Ron DeSantis will easily carry the state's 4 electoral votes. In North Carolina, too close to call, DeSantis has the lead. And in Ohio, also too close to call, but Ossoff has the lead in this state. And we have a key race alert. This means we either can project a state or we have some numbers updates. But we now project South Carolina's 9 electoral votes will go to Ron DeSantis. We can also project that Virginia's 13 electoral votes will go to Jon Ossoff. And we can project that North Carolina is too early to call, Ted Budd has the early lead. And we can also project that Ohio's Senate seat is too close to call as well. And in North Carolina, in the governorship, Josh Stein easily outperforming all other Democrats up and down the ballot. He is in a very tight race with incumbent Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. And in West Virginia, Caleb Hanna will win election, one of the youngest governors-elects now in the country. And here's the current electoral map. Ron DeSantis at 32 electoral votes to Jon Ossoff 16. And here's the current Senate map. Nothing has changed. We just have a few states now labeled too close to call. And here we have our 8 p.m. poll closings out of a large batch of states. In Alabama, Ron DeSantis will easily carry the state's 9 electoral votes. In Maine's 2nd district, another win for DeSantis. In Mississippi, another state to fall into the GOP column. In Missouri, we can project this state will go red yet again. And in Oklahoma, another DeSantis win. In Tennessee, another DeSantis win, a solid red state, no surprise here. In Connecticut, Jon Ossoff will carry this New England state. And in Delaware, home of former Vice President Joe Biden, 2020 presidential nominee, Jon Ossoff will carry the state's 3 electoral votes. In Illinois, 19 electoral votes will easily fall into the Ossoff column. And in Maine, 3 out of the 4 electoral votes, we will now project them to Ossoff. And in Maryland, 10 electoral votes will go to Jon Ossoff. And in Massachusetts, 11 electoral votes will go to the incumbent president. In New Jersey, 14 electoral votes will go blue yet again. And in Rhode Island, 4 electoral votes will go blue again. In Washington, D.C., the most liberal area in the country, Jon Ossoff will win. In Florida, too close to call, Ron DeSantis has the lead. In New Hampshire, also too close to call, Jon Ossoff has the lead this time around. And in Pennsylvania, Ossoff has forged an early lead. In Alabama, Mo Brooks will easily win re-election to the Senate. In Missouri, Eric Schmidt will go to the Senate for another 6 years. And in Oklahoma, James Lankford will also win re-election. In Connecticut, Richard Blumenthal, another win for the Democrats. In Illinois, Tammy Duckworth will win re-election to another 6 years. And in Maryland, Chris Van Hollen will win another 6 years in the Senate. And in Florida, it is too close to call between Debbie Mercastle-Powell and Marco Rubio. Rubio definitely has the lead here. In New Hampshire, Maggie Hassan has forged an early 17% lead over Kelly Ayotte. And in Pennsylvania, John Fetterman is leading over Lou Barletta. And in Missouri, we can project that Jay Ashcroft will win his first term as governor of the state. In Delaware, Matthew Dent will win re-election as governor. And in New Hampshire, the governorship is too close to call between Joyce Craig and her challenger. And here is the current electoral map. A lot more votes in. Jon Ossoff has taken a narrow 14 electoral vote lead over Ron DeSantis, 90 to 76 in terms of electoral votes. And here's the current Senate map. John Thune has 40 seats and Chuck Schumer has 36. And now we have our 8:30 p.m. poll closings out of the state of Arkansas, in which Ron DeSantis will easily win. And in the Senate, John Boozman will also easily win re-election. And here are our 9 p.m. poll closings with the largest amount of electoral votes up for grab this evening. Out of Kansas, Ron DeSantis will easily win this state. Out of Louisiana, another easy win for DeSantis. In Nebraska, 4 out of the 5 electoral votes will fall into the GOP column. In North Dakota and South Dakota, we can project Ron DeSantis as the winner. In Wyoming, 3 electoral votes will easily go to Ron DeSantis. Out of Colorado, 10 electoral votes will go to Jon Ossoff. This state was expected to be close, but Ossoff is doing very well here. Same thing in New Mexico, expected to be pretty close, but Ossoff is outperforming expectations. In New York, a very large amount of electoral votes up this evening. Jon Ossoff will easily win. In Michigan, it is too close to call. Jon Ossoff has the early lead. And in Minnesota, it is pretty much an identical performance for Ossoff, about 2% ahead. And in Nebraska's 2nd district, very close. DeSantis might do very well with more moderate voters this evening. And in Texas, very close. DeSantis doing very well here, as well as Ossoff. And in Wisconsin, very close as well. We have a little bit of glitch with our numbers. DeSantis should be in the lead in this state. And in Kansas, Jerry Moran will easily win another 6 years in the Senate. In Louisiana, John Kennedy will also win re-election. In North Dakota, John Hoeven easily re-elected, very popular in the state. And Senate Majority Leader John Thune re-elected in his home state of South Dakota. In Colorado, Michael Bennet re-elected, outperforming Jon Ossoff at the bottom of the ballot. And New York, the other Senate leader, Chuck Schumer, will easily win election. In Wisconsin, too close to call between Sean Duffy and Sarah Godlewski. Godlewski is outperforming Ossoff, but Sean Duffy doing very, very well. In North Dakota, Doug Burnham easily winning re-election. And we have a key race alert. Let's see what it is. North Carolina will give its 16 electoral votes to Ron DeSantis. A big win, but not as much of a surprise as we were expecting the state to go to him. Meanwhile, Ohio will also easily go to Ron DeSantis, a state once very close and potentially leaning to the Democrats, now shifting very far to the right. A big win for Ron DeSantis, around 9 or 10%. In Ohio, J.D. Vance will easily win re-election. And in New Hampshire, Jon Ossoff will win this state's 4 electoral votes yet again. In New Hampshire, Maggie Hassan will also win re-election. And Joyce Craig will win her first term as New Hampshire governor. And here's the current electoral map. 142 electoral votes for Ron DeSantis, and a mere 5 electoral votes behind is Jon Ossoff at 137. And here is our Senate map for the 46 seats for the Republicans and 39 for the Democrats. And here we have our 9 p.m. poll closings. Iowa will actually give its electoral votes to Ron DeSantis at poll closing. It's a big win for him in a state that has shifted so far to the right that we can project it essentially as soon as the polls close. Montana, another 4 electoral votes will go into the DeSantis column, and Utah, 6 electoral votes will go into the GOP column. In Arizona, too close to call, a very narrow lead for Ossoff currently. And in Nevada, Jon Ossoff has a massive lead, but mostly votes from Clark County are reporting. In Utah, Mike Lee will easily win re-election. In Arizona, the Senate seat, Mark Kelly having a 7% lead over Kelly Ward, massively outperforming Jon Ossoff, even though he's at the Senate level. In Iowa, pretty close to call, Pat Grassley actually underperforming Ron DeSantis at the Senate level. I would think now we're about 6% behind him. In Nevada, Catherine Cortez Masto also outperforming Jon Ossoff by around 2%. In Utah, Sean Reyes will win election as for his first term as governor. In Montana, it is too close to call for the governorship. Former senator unseated back in 2024, Jon Tester, running against former Secretary of the Interior Ryan Zink. This is actually a very, very close race, considering the fact that Tester is actually quite popular, and his loss back in 2024 was closer than the presidential level. Ryan Zink is actually the former representative for Montana's congressional district. He was very unpopular, meaning that Tester actually has a solid shot at winning the governorship. And we have a key race alert. Let's see what it is. Florida will give its 30 electoral votes to its former governor Ron DeSantis in a blowout and one of the largest wins in the state for a GOP candidate in several years. Texas will also give its 40 electoral votes to Ron DeSantis, a massive win tonight. 2 of the biggest states in the union giving their electoral votes to DeSantis. And Minnesota will actually give its 10 electoral votes to Jon Ossoff. He will narrowly pull out a win in Minnesota. In Florida, Marco Rubio will easily win re-election. And in our electoral map, we have Ron DeSantis at 220 electoral votes to Jon Ossoff's 147. And in the Senate map, John Thune is a mere 3 seats away from a guaranteed majority. 2 seats away if Ron DeSantis wins and Mike Garcia is vice president, meaning that he would be a tie-breaking vote. Democrats have to sweep the remaining states and win pretty much all the states considered too close to call in order to have a Senate majority. And here are 11 p.m. poll closings out of the Pacific Coast. Jon Ossoff will easily win California's 54 electoral votes. The biggest state in the union will give its votes to Jon Ossoff. Hawaii will easily go to the incumbent president. Same thing with Oregon and Washington. These states will all go blue again. And in Idaho, 4 electoral votes will easily go to Ron DeSantis. And in the Senate, Raul Labrador will win his first term as senator, replacing Mike Crapo. In California, Adam Schiff will win election after he was appointed to the seat when Kamala Harris became vice president. In Hawaii, Brian Schatz will win another 6 years in the Senate. In Oregon, Shemia Fagan will win her first term, replacing Ron Wyden. In Washington Senate, Patty Murray will win another guaranteed 6 years in the Senate. In Washington, Jay Inslee will win an unprecedented 5th term. And we have a key race alert. Let's see what it is. Nebraska's 2nd district will go to Ron DeSantis, defying polling expectations. A very moderate district, DeSantis will easily win this 1 electoral vote. In Iowa, Pat Grassley is projected to win the Senate seat out of Iowa. That means he will replace his grandfather, Chuck Grassley, and become the 2nd Grassley to be in the Senate. And here is the current electoral map. Ron DeSantis at 233 electoral votes, Ossoff at 225. We have a number of states considered too close to call, mostly in the Rust Belt and Sun Belt. Meanwhile, Alaska has not had its polls closed as of now. And here's the current Senate seat. John Thune at 50 seats, meaning he merely needs a single of the too close to call seats or Alaska to go to the GOP, and then he is continuing his time as Senate Majority Leader. And here we have our 1 p.m. poll closings out of the state of Alaska. And we can project that it will easily go to Ron DeSantis at the presidential level. On the Senate level, it is too close to call. We have projected that the other 2 candidates in the top 4 primary were eliminated, meaning that Al Gross and Lisa Murkowski are the only 2 candidates remaining. And we have a key race alert. Let's see what it is. We can project Arizona will go to Ron DeSantis, continuing its Republican trend. Joe Biden tried really hard to win this back in 2020. Same thing with Jon Ossoff in 2024. But Ron DeSantis will continue the GOP hold in the state. In Wisconsin, another continuation of the GOP hold in a state. Wisconsin's 10 electoral votes will go red yet again after 2016, 2020, and 2024. The state has shifted far enough to the right that DeSantis will win it by over 1.5% as well. And in Wisconsin, Sean Duffy will unseat Sarah Godlewski, guaranteeing the Republicans another seat in the Senate, and this may be the projection many of Republicans have been waiting for. Not this one, but after this you will see it soon. But we can actually project that Mark Kelly will outperform Jon Ossoff just enough to defeat his unpopular opponent Kelly Ward. In North Carolina, Ted Budd will give the GOP another seat in the Senate, padding their majority. And we have a key race projection, the projection we were talking about earlier. The Republicans will win the U.S. Senate, meaning that if Ron DeSantis wins, that he will be working with a GOP Congress, and that will be a lot easier for him to get his agenda passed. Here is the current Senate map. 52 seats for John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, which we can now project. 44 seats for Chuck Schumer, guaranteed to be the Senate Minority Leader. And here is the current electoral map. 257 electoral votes for Ron DeSantis. He has a mere 13 electoral votes from the presidency, meaning that if he wins Michigan, Pennsylvania, or Georgia, he is guaranteed to be the next president. If he wins Nevada, he would need another one of those states to pass the magic number of 270. But this also shows that Jon Ossoff is very, very far away from being reelected as president. And we have another key race alert. Let's see what it is. In Alaska, Lisa Murkowski will easily win re-election to the Senate, defeating Democratic candidate Al Gross. And here we have some county results out of the Georgia presidential race. Ron DeSantis is nearly 30,000 votes ahead of Ossoff, doing very well in the suburbs and in the rural areas. In Michigan, we can show that Jon Ossoff is about 10,000 votes ahead, a tiny razor-thin margin. Ron DeSantis outperforming with more college-educated suburban voters. In Nevada, Jon Ossoff is 5,000 votes ahead. As you can see, Ron DeSantis doing pretty well here for a Republican candidate. In Pennsylvania, a 54,000 vote lead out of Ron DeSantis. In the state, he's doing very, very well here. As you can see, he's winning Erie, the bellwether county, which could show a win in the state for Ron DeSantis. And in the Georgia Senate race, Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock. Raphael Warnock, 38,000 votes ahead. Remember that you saw Ron DeSantis leading the state earlier, meaning that Raphael Warnock is outperforming Jon Ossoff enough that he could potentially win re-election and give the Democrats just one more seat in the Senate, which of course would be very much considering that the GOP has already won. In the Pennsylvania Senate, 53,000 vote lead for John Fetterman, another senator outperforming Jon Ossoff. And in the Nevada Senate, we can also show that 14,000 vote lead for Catherine Cortez Masto. And in Montana Governor, 16,000 vote lead for Ryan Zink as of now. He has retaken the lead after Jon Tester's early performance. And in North Carolina Governor, a 125,000 vote lead for Mark Robinson. He is currently in the lead over incumbent Governor Josh Stein. And here is the current Senate map. 53 seats for John Thune, a very large margin compared to Chuck Schumer's 44 seats. And we have a key race alert. Let's see what it is. In the Nevada Senate, we can project that Catherine Cortez Masto will win re-election, defeating Dean Heller and outperforming Jon Ossoff by a considerable margin, 1.7% lead for her over Dean Heller, compared to Ossoff's razor-thin margin over Ron DeSantis. And in the Pennsylvania Senate, a surprise here, John Fetterman will actually win with 50% of the vote, taking a very large margin compared to Lou Barletta, and again, outperforming the presidential candidate Jon Ossoff. John Fetterman doing very well in Allegheny County, home of Pittsburgh, and in Beaver County. Same thing with Erie County, all working class counties. John Fetterman's outperformance is the only thing keeping him ahead, as Lou Barletta is doing quite well in the suburban areas. And here's the current Senate map. Democrats have rebounded. It is now 53 seats for the Republicans, 46 seats for Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. But this big win tonight shows that John Thune may be pretty secure in his position as Senate Majority Leader. If Republicans win Georgia, it will also be their biggest Senate majority since 2014. And we have a key race projection, and we now know who the next president of the United States will be. Will it be Jon Ossoff, coming from behind to defeat Ron DeSantis and win another term as president, or Ron DeSantis unseating the incumbent president? And here we have it. Ron DeSantis will be elected the 48th president of the United States in a historic win. He will unseat Jon Ossoff, the unpopular incumbent president, and win with a coalition unseen in modern times. We'll show you a few of the states that has put him over the top. We can project that Ron DeSantis will win the state of Michigan by around 0.3%. In a win similar to Donald Trump's win back in 2016, Ron DeSantis will do very well in the traditional rural areas with blue-collar workers and with affluent suburban voters, many of whom abandoned Donald Trump back in 2020 to vote for Joe Biden. Jon Ossoff did not get nearly enough support with these groups in order to win. And in Pennsylvania, you saw John Fetterman win with 50% of the vote, while Jon Ossoff is losing with 48.7%, 0.8% behind Ron DeSantis' margin. As you can see, Ron DeSantis is doing very, very well in the suburban areas. He has won several counties that were actually Democratic just 4 years earlier. He also won the bellwether of Erie County. One interesting thing that we can note is Centre County, a county aptly named as it is in the center of the state. A very affluent white county is actually going to Jon Ossoff. He campaigned very hard here, and it shows his strength with college-educated voters. But, of course, Ron DeSantis cut into that margin just enough to win the state and several suburban counties. And here is a current electoral map. Ron DeSantis has surpassed the magic number of 270. Now his margin is 291 to Jon Ossoff's 225. We'll see if Jon Ossoff can even win another electoral vote this evening. And we have a key race alert. Let's see what it is. Out of the state of Georgia, Jon Ossoff's home state, it will go to Ron DeSantis, flipping back to the Republicans after Ossoff won it back in 2024. Ron DeSantis will narrowly squeak by with a 30,000 vote margin, but let's analyze this map just a little. As you can see, in the Atlanta metro area, Jon Ossoff did not do as well in the suburbs compared to Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis overperformed Nikki Haley and Donald Trump's margins, the GOP candidates from 2024 and 2020, and almost won many of these counties. He also did well with the rural black population, which was actually a surprise to many of us here at the EWA headquarters. As you can see in these counties more towards the eastern area of the state, they are light red, showing that DeSantis won them. These are primarily African American counties, many of them are rural blue-collar workers. Ossoff won them back in 2024, but DeSantis will flip them back to the GOP. In Montana governor, here is a massive shock. Jon Tester will defeat the unpopular Ryan Zink and win election to his first term as governor of Montana. He will overperform Jon Ossoff by astronomical proportions, winning with 291,000 votes to Ryan Zink's 287. Jon Tester only won by about 4,000 votes, but about 0.7% in the percentage-wise margins. In North Carolina governor, another overperformance by a Democratic candidate, Josh Stein will win re-election over Mark Robinson with a strong performance out of the suburban and urban areas. Mark Robinson definitely boosted margins in the rural areas, but Josh Stein definitely performed well enough to win. And in the Nevada presidential race, we can now project that Jon Ossoff is a mere 2,000 votes ahead of Ron DeSantis. Clark County and Washoe County both pretty close, closer than usual. As you can see, that one blue county up here in the northern area of the state, that is Washoe County, a very white, moderate county. So if Ron DeSantis continues his overperformance with affluent suburban voters, he could win this county and the state as a whole. In the Georgia Senate, Herschel Walker has taken a 41,000 vote lead. Very, very narrow. As you can see in the percentage margin, it is actually tied 49.4% to 49.4%. And here is a current electoral map. Ron DeSantis has now outperformed Donald Trump's winning margin in 2016. He has now won 307 electoral votes to Donald Trump's 306. The only state remaining up for grabs is the state of Nevada, which Jon Ossoff holds with a razor-thin majority as of now. And we have a key race alert. Let's see what it is. There are a few races uncalled: Georgia's Senate race and Nevada's presidential race. So let's see who wins. In the Nevada presidential race, we can project that Ron DeSantis will flip Washoe County and win with 0.4% of the vote and by about 4,000 votes in the raw margins. As you can see, this is a very historic win for the Republican Party. This is the first time a Republican has won Nevada since 2004 in George Bush. In 2 decades, Ron DeSantis is the first Republican to flip Nevada. Jon Ossoff camp is stunned by this loss. They expected to win Nevada, and as you can see, it will put Ron DeSantis over the 310 electoral vote margin. We can also project that Herschel Walker will unseat Raphael Warnock, winning by a pretty similar margin to Ron DeSantis, albeit by a smaller margin than the GOP presidential candidate. He will do very well with rural blacks, very similar to Ron DeSantis. His name recognition as a former football player helped him cut into Raphael Warnock's margins in the Atlanta metro area. As you can see, Herschel Walker will do what he couldn't do back in 2022, which is unseat Senator Warnock. Or now we will actually have to call Walker Senator-elect Herschel Walker, as he is unseated, now soon to be former Senator Raphael Warnock. So here's the current electoral map by the margins. As you can see, Ron DeSantis has won 313 electoral votes, the biggest GOP win since 1988, which was 40 years ago. He flipped Nevada, won Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia back, and held the states of Texas and Florida by likely margins. He also brought states like New Hampshire and Minnesota down to tilt margins. And here we have a county map from the entire presidential race. As you can see, Ron DeSantis did very well, especially in suburban areas. In Orange County, in the southern portion of California, Ron DeSantis flipped back that county, and that is the first GOP win there since 2012. He also did very well in Florida, winning the Tampa Bay area. He also did very well in the Rust Belt. As you can see, he won the driftless regions of Wisconsin by very large margins, took the Milwaukee and Madison metro areas by storm, winning the suburban areas around them. And we showed you the presidential map for Pennsylvania, but not for New Hampshire, in which Ron DeSantis also outperformed his margins. But anyway, the last thing that we will show you for this county map is the win in Maricopa County for Ron DeSantis. Nikki Haley couldn't even win this county back in 2024, but DeSantis will flip it back to the GOP with his incredible suburban strength. And here is the current popular vote. So Ron DeSantis actually won the popular vote, 78 million votes compared to Jon Ossoff's 73 million. That means that Ron DeSantis has won the popular vote by about 5 million. About 2.8 million voted for a third-party candidate or a write-in. And here are our exit polls. Ron DeSantis won the male demographic by about 16%. Jon Ossoff took the female demographic by about 11%. Ron DeSantis did very well with white voters, 60% to 37% for the GOP. He actually cut into the Democratic margins with black voters, 85% to 13%. With Hispanic or Latino voters, Jon Ossoff won that by a margin smaller than any other Democratic candidate in recent history. He only won 58% of the vote to Ron DeSantis' 40%. And other voters, 52% to 45% for Ossoff. And here are our age and college demographics that we can now project exit polls for. Jon Ossoff won the younger demographic of 18 to 29. Ron DeSantis narrowly won voters aged 30 to 44, and by a larger margin, voters aged 45 to 64. And the 65 and over demographic went by a very large margin to Ron DeSantis. Voters with a college degree were actually evenly split, 49 to 49. Jon Ossoff actually had a lot of strength with these voters, but he lost this is a pretty big drop in the margin back from 2024. And with voters with no college degree, Ron DeSantis won by about 8%, a very large margin. And with her income and exit polls, voters with an under $50,000 income, Jon Ossoff won by about 1%. Voters with an income $50,000 to about $100,000, Ron DeSantis won by about 3%. $100,000 plus was a 16-vote margin for Ron DeSantis. Voters that said their situation was better than 4 years ago voted for Jon Ossoff, 73% of them. Voters that said their situation was worse voted about 79% for Ron DeSantis. And voters that said their situation was the same voted about 2% for Jon Ossoff. And here is the Senate map according to margins. So there were some states that definitely were pretty interesting, like Arizona, Nevada, that were actually went to the Democrats, even though Ron DeSantis won them on the presidential level. Mark Kelly and Catherine Cortez Masto distanced themselves from Jon Ossoff in the final weeks of the campaign. Same thing with John Fetterman in Pennsylvania. But for Herschel Warnock, a candidate that probably could have won if he distanced himself from Jon Ossoff more, campaigned with Ossoff in Georgia. And that was actually the death of his political career in that state. But we'll see if certain candidates that lost will make a political comeback, like Warnock, who we just mentioned, and Sarah Godlewski, who lost in Wisconsin. But as you can see, John Thune won about 54 seats compared to Chuck Schumer's 46, meaning that John Thune is likely to remain Senate Majority Leader, as Republicans will likely approve of him more due to his very good skills giving the Republicans a very large majority. And here is the current governor map. A lot of the states that were up for grabs this evening are very close. For example, in North Carolina and Montana. We also have all the margins from the prior election in 2026. So if you do not know, Kimberly Yee is the chair of the Republican Governors Association, while Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, is the chair of the Democratic Governors Association. So as you can see, Democrats gained a few seats like Montana and North Carolina in a pretty big surprise, but they ran good candidates against Republicans who fielded pretty controversial candidates, which did not help them. And here is the current House map. Republican House Leader Elise Stefanik, soon to be sworn in as House Speaker, as she is likely going to win, beat out Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries at a very large margin. Look at this, 241 seats for the Republicans, 194 for the Democrats. As you can see, Republicans took back a lot of very suburban areas. For example, New Hampshire's 2nd District, several seats in Pennsylvania, and they took 3 out of the 4 seats in Nevada and took back a few of the seats in California that they lost back in 2026. Well, Mike Garcia did not win back his district. He endorsed a candidate who won that same district, and Republicans actually flipped the Tampa Bay district that Charlie Crist used to hold. And Jon Ossoff has announced that he will be conceding the 2028 race. He called Ron DeSantis to concede, and Ron DeSantis will actually be speaking shortly. More coverage on that. But Ossoff was unseated in a big blow to the Democratic Party after he was quite unpopular. This wasn't a big surprise, but still, an incumbent president has not been unseated since 1992. And Ron DeSantis has made his victory speech in Florida, actually in Miami more specifically, a place which has many suburban voters but also Hispanics, and that those groups helped fuel the DeSantis win, so it's quite symbolic for him to speak there. But after his historic win over Jon Ossoff, he has confirmed that Ossoff's call, and that Jon Ossoff promised a peaceful transition of power after this election. Ron DeSantis will take office in January, and he will be sworn in as president, while Vice President-elect Mike Garcia will be sworn in as Vice President. They'll be working with a GOP Senate and a GOP House, meaning that a lot of their legislation will be passed quite easily. Democrats are looking to 2032 take back the Senate and House, into 2032 to unseat Ron DeSantis, but we'll see if that's possible. So, thank you all for watching. I'm really happy I'm getting this out. Sorry for any errors I may have made. I noticed that in a few of the slides I put 1964 election instead of 2028, so sorry about that. This was the longest election night I've done. I'm so sorry it's so long. I don't know if I should be apologizing for that, but I sat in front of my computer for about 40 minutes recording this, and it's about 220 slides. Thank you again to Alex for making most of the county maps. A few of them are from Wikipedia, but the vast majority are from Alex. So thank you so much for doing that. It really means a lot. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this and leave a like. I worked really hard on it, so I would really appreciate it if you did so. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.